Hi, I'm Katie, the owner of Arch Publications, and you're listening to the Business Insights podcast. This week, I got to meet Daniel Keane. He's a business owner from Sandbach with one goal. He wants to spread the love of music. He's the owner of Sandbach Music, based in the centre of town, and I spent some time with him finding out about all the strings to his bow. Sorry, couldn't resist. There are lessons, a retail space, and repairs. Hope you enjoy it.
The Arch Publications podcast.
So I'm from the local area anyway, because I'm all Sager born and bred. And I was a primary school teacher before I started this. And I was specialising in the arts. I was in sort of the really big primary schools in Stoke, where you're talking, 700-800 children in a primary school, which, I mean, to me, that seems big. I went just to a normal one-form entry school.
Yeah, that is big, yeah.
To my wife, it's ridiculously massive, because she was at primary school at Biddulph Moor, where they amalgamated two classes. So yeah, they were big schools. So I was mainly doing music, and then I'd get asked every now and again, oh, so-and-so's off sick, go and do this. And that then started to make me sort of fall out of love with it a little bit. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do the music the same. And then I went to a music teachers conference in London and bumped into the lady who had set this place up.
Oh, okay.
And she was looking at selling it, basically. She'd been offered a permanent job with ABRSM. She wasn't able to spend the time here anymore.
How long had she had it for?
I think it was about 5 years.
Right.
And I thought, so I came and I looked round, thought, I can see a lot of potential here. I think if I focus on it, we could really do some good, because all I've ever really been wanting to do is spread the love of music. So yeah, we negotiated, I bought the business offer, and now 3.5 years, nearly 4 years later, we've just grown astronomically. Mm-hmm. So now we have 15 teachers, 2 admin staff, plus myself. Got 8 teaching rooms here now, because we've converted a few other rooms. And yeah, we've about 250 students now that come for weekly lessons.
Wow.
Of all ages.
Okay.
Again, there's a great assumption that it's going to be children. Mm-hmm. But no, we've got some students that are in their 80s and 90s. And I think,
what do they learn?
Well, you can learn anything. I find the older students tend to be looking at more piano,
right? Or guitar.
Ukulele seems to be more popular with the adults. Because that's what I was like, is it guitar? And I was like, no, ukulele is more popular with the adults. But yeah, I mean, we can teach anything, or certainly anything in the mainstream. So we do strings, brass, woodwind, piano, guitars, theory, singing, and we have a little group called Mini Maestros, which is for 4 to 6 year olds, to sort of as an introduction to music in general.
What do they do? Recorders and ukuleles then?
No, it's looking at music theory using fun and games, and then they get an introduction on all different instruments. So one week I will take my trumpet down, play a piece for them, we'll look at the instrument, explore how it works. Another week the string teacher might go down with it. So they don't necessarily learn an instrument, but they get to see all the instruments and have a go at them. And
learn about rhythm and...
And start, because they're the fundamentals of music.
And tone.
Tone, not to a certain extent. I mean, it is a fundamental, but not in Mini Maestro, because you have to really be learning an instrument to start to then perfect where you're going with it. So, and then they'll usually about 12 months after they've been doing that, they'll then be like, I know what instrument I want to learn. I want to learn this. And then we'll see if we can fit them in. Equally, if they want to go and learn somewhere else, it works nicely for us as a feed into other lessons. But the point of it is just to excite them about music. Yeah. And that's the point with all of it,
So how many instruments do you play then? You've mentioned the did you say trombone? No.
Trumpet.
As you can tell, my knowledge of music instruments is very limited. When I came in before, I explained to you that I did play the tenor horn in school. And it was literally because my sister had played it. She'd left school and I wanted to do something, and my parents had bought this tenor horn, and it used to freak me out because it was just full of her spit. So anyway, I did play that, and I probably wasn't the best. I always had that red raw ring around the top of my lip. But we are a singing family. My mum plays the piano, and her mum played the piano a lot. So it's kind of, unfortunately, it's petered out through the generations. But my mum does
3 different choirs a week. She's 75. She's done barbershop for years, and she does like 2 other choirs in the village in Holmes Chapel where we live. So I should be a bit more musical than I am, really. But you sound like, you've got a lot of musical experience. So apart from that instrument, do you play any others?
Well, the first instrument I ever started learning was the piano. But then I probably play more piano now than I used to.
Right.
Because I found enjoyment in playing it again.
Do you play well?
Well, I did up to grade 5.
Right.
And then I would say that I'm probably sort of grade 5, grade 6 standard now. I don't particularly want to do any more grades on it. I don't have a need to. But then I did a degree in music, and that was with brass being my main focus.
Right.
And then I actually ended up getting into conducting whilst I was there.
Wow.
So then, until recently, I conducted. Pre-COVID, I had 6 local choirs that I was conducting.
Really?
And then I do a bit of singing. And
choirs in Sandbach then?
I had the All Sages Community Choir.
Right.
We just started a Sandbach Community Choir when COVID hit. I used to run the Crew Lyceum's Theatre Choir.
Wow.
So I started that off, and then decided over COVID, I've already got about 3 other choirs. It was starting from scratch. It was too much.
Yeah.
And then I used to be the junior vocal coach at the Regent Theatre pre-COVID. So I had a little group of kids choir there. But again, the ones that I wasn't directly responsible for, like the Regent that hasn't restarted after COVID. And then I decided not to restart the Sandbach one, to focus getting the All Sage one back going. And then I have now handed that over to somebody else, so that I've got the time to focus even more on the business, and also just actually seeing my wife. It did take up a lot of time. Everybody sees, as is the same with all the teachers here as well, everybody sees the lesson they have or the rehearsal that they have with you. What they don't see is the hours and hours of planning that has to go into that. And I think, COVID just made me realise how much time I did actually spend prepping on that I hadn't necessarily realised before.
Do you think that you would ever start the Sandbach choir up again? Are you asked to on regular occasions by people who are in it?
I do get asked to do bits and bobs, but actually now I find I get asked by choirs in the area to go and help them. So I have a couple of choirs now that I will go and visit them once a month, do a rehearsal with them, help them out in bits, and then sometimes I'll go and help them I'll conduct the concerts or things like this, and that's in a way quite nice, because I get to go in and, somebody else has already done all the really hard work in the background, and I just get to put a bit of polish on the top.
Yeah, and it's probably nice to have a different listening ear to how the sound is coming across.
Yes, and I think, in a way that was where one of the reasons I stopped doing the All Sage Choir was I had a break for a few months in the run-up to my marriage, where I asked somebody else to go in and do it for me so I could concentrate on getting ready for the wedding. And they then heard the pieces that I'd been doing differently, and then I went back afterwards and I was like, oh yeah, actually this is this. And it made me then think, actually, I've been doing this choir. I think I've been doing the choir for about 4 or 5 years. And it was like, oh, maybe it's time for a fresh set of ears to come in and look at some other music. And so, when I get to go to different choirs, again, it's just a different set of ears on everything. That's the thing. I know, again, from playing in brass bands, it's a very competition-based world. We always get guest conductors in the run-up to big competitions, because you have they'll come in, oh, why are you doing it that way? Why don't you try this way? And it's more of that, and it just means, again, I can give some of my ideas. I'll pick up ideas from the other people, and we're just spreading it around.
Yeah.
And that, so much of music is just cooperative, and you're always learning and you're always listening, and I think so many people don't realise how much music is actually in your life. You go into the amount of shops you go into, there's music playing. For me, it now becomes quite obvious. There's a few big high street names now that don't play music.
Probably because they have to pay for it.
Well, yeah.
You don't want to pay PRS.
It becomes really obvious when you're in there and you think, oh, it's actually quite quiet.
Yeah. That's so true. Because now most young people are receiving music through like TikTok, or I know Instagram have added music to you can put music on their
and
posts.
Video games as well is a big one.
Massively. My son, he's 13, and he goes on TikTok and he'll sing songs, or he'll just sing short snippets of songs, because that's all they sort of digest, of songs from like the 90s or, the 60s or 70s. And he thinks he's hearing them for the first time, and he thinks he's found this cool thing, but they've always been there and they've always been really cool. It's just that they're digesting them in a different way, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's strange, I suppose. It's like the fact how vinyl has now come back round. I mean, I've never moved away from CD.
Haven't you?
No, I know. People always thought I was very strange, sort of when going to uni, and I'd be like, well, here's my several hundred CD collection and my CD player in the car. I've still got a car with a CD player.
Wow.
And if I'm going to listen to something at home, I either want it on the CD player or through a really good set of speakers if it's going to be a download, because the music does get compressed.
Yeah.
And I like to have that envelopment. I mean, it will never be perfect unless you're listening to it live.
Yeah.
But it's just about that. And I think something does... And to me, I just don't trust technology enough. And I think, well, if my computer...
I know, I keep looking at my computer, making sure it's still recording.
If my computer crashed and I lost all my music, I've still got it all on CD.
Yeah, that's true. So what do you listen to then?
Anything and everything, to be honest. I mean, I used to say that the only thing I don't listen to is rap, but the musical Hamilton is quite rappy, and I do listen to that. So I suppose really, yeah, to be fair, 60s to 90s pop is probably the most played on my list. And then quite a lot of classical. I go through phases of really liking jazz and blues.
Yes, yeah.
And Hugh Laurie has got some fantastic blues albums out.
Right.
People know him as an actor, but he's an amazing piano player and singer. I would highly recommend. That. Yeah, he's got some really good blues stuff. So yeah, it varies. And also I do listen to a lot of brass band stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes purely just for we played that piece on Wednesday. I want to go and see if any bands play it better.
Yeah. Do you sing as well then?
I do, but not a massive amount.
Right.
I used to find I would sing a lot when I was conducting because I would sing different parts, and I used to record all 4 vocal parts, so I would sing bass, tenor, alto and soprano on these recordings, sometimes to great hilarity, particularly with the soprano lines. But I guess since I caught COVID at the start of 2022, and that's just decimated my voice really. So it was funny. I was doing some singing in our church choir just before Christmas, and one of my best friends was like, wow, I've never heard your singing voice so low, and it's very different. And I was like, so I've not really done much singing since I had COVID. Wow. And then, your vocal muscles are a muscle. Mm-hmm. So with not then doing the singing, my range has really shrunk. Whereas when I was singing 2 and 3 times a week, my range grew and I could keep it there.
Yeah.
But I enjoy singing, but I always find I get far too nervous with singing because I've always found learning words hard.
But you can learn sheet music, can you?
I mean, sheet music is always my preferred. I can play by ear. Love listening to jazz, but playing it terrifies me. Mm. We had a bit of a jazzy piece in our band Christmas concert. I spent about 6 weeks doing nothing but playing that one piece.
Wow.
Because I was like, I need to, and again, it's all right for the music to say, be a bit freer or play ad lib. I was like, no, I need a dot on a note. I was trained to play dots on there.
Yeah.
To just suddenly say, here's the chord of F. And I was like, I know the theory, I know what should happen, but I just do not have the confidence to do that at all. And I have huge respect and admiration for those that will just go. In a way, it's confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because improv, isn't it?
Yeah, for me, I know the theory, I know what I should play and what should sound right, but I just don't have the confidence that I would be able to pull it off.
I think you probably would.
And it's that thing. That's how I've always. I went to Leeds College of Music, which is world renowned for jazz,
right?
And had a big jazz thing, and I was doing the classical course, so I heard jazz all around me and had good friends that were playing trumpets on the jazz course, and they'd be like, oh, just do this and this, and I'd be like, it's witchcraft.
Yeah, it is.
But equally there are some people who give them the amount of most choirs that I've worked with are more community choirs, the amount of people in those choirs that can't read music. So again, to them, me reading 4 lines of music just like that is witchcraft.
Absolutely.
The same as talk a foreign language. So I know English and the odd word of French.
Yeah.
Whereas some people can recite 6 and 7 languages.
My mum can read music really well, and she can also play by ear a little bit. And she got that from my grandma. And when I was little, I was in a choir as well in Stockport called the Maya Choir. I don't know whether it's still going, but it was like a young person's choir. And I could read music a little bit. I feel like I've lost it a bit. Well, I feel like I've lost it completely. I suppose it was like riding a bike. No, it's not like riding a bike. It's something that you need to practice and keep up.
Not necessarily. I think there's a lot of, if the knowledge is there, I mean, to be fair, my wife's quite a good example because she learnt the cornet when she was at school. I think she got to about grade 2 or 3, then stopped playing. And it's only in the last couple of years she's restarted. And, yes, at first she felt, I've forgotten everything. But now, more and more, it's, oh yeah, I remember doing this, I remember doing that. And then you suddenly see a rapid increase in improvement. And it's, I stopped playing my cornet for a good 3 or 4 years at one point, just because if I wasn't in a band, and then, when you're in a band, you've got a reason to practice.
Yeah.
And it was that thing, you'd think, oh yeah, I'll still practice, I enjoy playing. It'd be like, well, I do, and I did. But there wasn't a reason to practice, so then life got in the way. When I picked it back up again, it was really hard at first. I could remember the notes, but it's not just about that. You've got the stamina and everything else.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest problems with me for playing the piano, is if I've not done it for a while, it's getting your fingers back to moving. Your finger muscles don't naturally move all around and do all that sort of bits. And there's things like that people don't take into consideration as well.
Yeah.
Music, whatever instrument you play, there are muscles involved.
Yeah.
And that's why I say no instrument is necessarily easier than the other, certainly not on a universal level. Mm-hmm. I strongly believe that there is an instrument for everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody will find a certain instrument easier than others. I remember, I ended up on the trumpet because I found a trumpet in my grandma's loft that my uncle had as a child. Wow. So there was an instrument accessible to me. It was one with a massive dent in that you could never get in tune, but the instrument was there, which then, I then got a reasonable ability to be able to badger my mum enough to buy me my own.
Yeah.
But before that, I know that I'd been given a clarinet from a family member to try. Mm-hmm. I just made it squeak and got through about 3 reeds a day and realised that wasn't the instrument for me.
Violin, have you ever?
I've had a couple of goes on a violin, because one of my best friends at school played the violin, but I've never seriously picked one up and tried to have a lesson. That to me is a very alien instrument in how you hold it. But again, when I see violin players play, it just looks like a natural extension of their arm. And I think, but to me, that's very unnatural. But again, you give somebody a cornet, I mean, even, with brass, you give somebody a cornet and you give somebody a massive double bass. To me, I can't get enough air through a double bass to consistent. They're massive.
Yeah.
But if you gave them a cornet, they'd be like, blooming heck, it's trying to play into a pea shooter. Everybody is built differently. And, I think there's no harm in having a go. I'm always having a go at things, and I think my wife gets a bit bored. Oh, what instrument have you bought now? I'll have a go at this one. I'll have a go at this.
We're sat in your office and the place does sound like it's buzzing. We've got somebody learning an instrument. I can hear from the left side, it sounds like a piano. Yeah. This sounds like there's a class arrived. So you do classes here as well then, don't you? Do you want to just tell me about the classes that you do?
It's just a case of any instrument can be taught either individually
or as a group.
Most of the groups are pairs. So say, we've got a few where it's, parent and child have decided to both learn together, or if there's 2 siblings and they both want to learn. And then in specific classes, we just have, there's a theory class, which makes it much easier and more affordable to learn than having it privately. Mm-hmm. And also the mini maestros that we...
Is this the mini maestros that have arrived now?
Yes, it will be.
Ah, okay.
I was looking at the blank space where there used to be a clock.
Okay.
And then I couldn't... Well, all of our clocks are the same in the building.
Right.
And then when we did put an extra room in last year, I needed a clock for it, and I couldn't find the exact same clock, so I gave my clock to that room.
So do you ever go into a studio do you ever have any kids or adults that learn and then they go on to be like, go into the studios and start like forming bands and that kind of thing?
It's hard to say, to be honest, because I've only been, it's sort of been 3.5, 4 years. We have had kids that have gone on to music college and to do music at university, and equally, we do find September is a reasonably high turnover of students have reached university age. They go off, but then there's always some more waiting to come through. But even if they do or don't, that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
And I think, again, you can get very caught up on, oh, well, we've got a 100% pass rate at our exams. And it's like, well, that's lovely.
Yeah.
And we do, which is lovely. But that's not what it's about. We have a 100% pass rate, but we probably only have about 15% of our students that do exams.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's just about as much learning to play for pleasure as it is the exams. And certainly in recent years, actually, the exams are only really, they only seem important to those wanting to go to university, because now when you're grade 5 and above, you get UCAS points with your grades.
Oh, okay.
Since they started doing that, again, now people want to take exams that might have thought, oh, I'm not too bothered. But if you're a few UCAS points short and you can get 100 odd points from doing a grade 8 exam, it's worth going through. But yeah, to be honest, unless, again, they're also better because Rock School, for example, that we've got a very good relationship with, their syllabuses use pieces of music that you would just want to play.
What is Rock School then? Is it like an online school? Or is it?
No, it's an exam board.
Okay.
So there's 3 main ones in this country at the moment, which is ABRSM, which is the one everybody's heard of because they're the ones that they have the links with the Royal Music Colleges, and they're the big old institution.
Yeah.
Then there's Trinity, and then you've got Rock School.
Right.
And originally Rock School started with just drums and guitars and that sort of thing. But now they've started a classical line as well. So you can do classical piano exams with them. They've got a violin syllabus. I think they've just brought out a woodwind one, so there, and you can do all sorts of bits. And again, originally when they first started, they were seen as the young upstart. Now, it's how you learn, because ABRSM is the old school scales, theory, all that. Rock School and Trinity both give options of you still have to do scales, but there's also musicianship elements and improvisation elements in some of them. So they're looking at other areas. And I was ABRSM when I was growing up. There wasn't really any alternative for brass and piano when I was doing my grades. Or certainly that was, I think I did get some UCAS points for my grade 8, but you only got them through ABRSM then. You get them through all of them now.
Oh, right, okay.
And, as that monopoly that ABRSM had is starting to break away, I think it's doing wonders. And it,
modernising it, things.
And, if your grade syllabus has a piece that you'd like, that you listen to and wanted to learn anyway, then it suddenly becomes I was already going to learn that piece. Go on, I'll take the exam, and and then it's I did my grade 6, or I did my grade 5, or even just I did my grade 2. We organise concerts for our students at Christmas and try and get one in the summer.
Where do they happen?
Venues change, but we did our Christmas one this year at the Wesley Centre.
Okay.
And that worked really well for us. So hopefully they'll continue to be there. And we do 2 concerts over an afternoon, 20 slots in each, and just do a first come, first serve for who wants them. And that's great because, again, this time we had adults and kids in the same concert. Yeah. And, again, there's the preconception, they're an adult, so they're going to be grade 6, grade 7. Oh, that adult's just played the same piece as that child. And it's like, because adults are learning new as well. Age does not matter in music whatsoever. All that matters is you want to learn it. Yeah. So it's really lovely. And then that gives the performance opportunities, which without that, your only other option to do a performance is to take an exam. But sitting in front of an examiner in a very, in a room
stressful situation as well.
And again, that's why it's nice for some that we can do exams here. Because if you come in here week in, week out for your lesson, you already know the environment. We've found now that we tend to have the same 2 or 3 examiners on a rotational basis. So we get that good rapport with the examiners. It doesn't affect the results in terms of, go on then, you've come here before. There's nothing, nothing like that.
No favouritism.
But it means that the students are then a bit more relaxed. The examiners are more relaxed because they know that they're going to be looked after and have a nice time. And then the music just flows better. Yeah. And again, you don't have to be one of our students to do your exam here. We're a public centre.
Oh, right,
so
okay.
anyone can come. This time we had a guy on drums who who actually was talking to me afterwards and said, well, actually there's an exam centre that's closer to me, but I did my first exam here and I did really well. So now I want to come back because it's linked with good results.
Yeah.
And you're like, and that's great.
We've talked about the music side of the business. Tell me a bit about the shop and the things that you said people can come and get from there. Can they buy instruments?
They can buy instruments. We always have recorders and ukuleles we keep in stock.
Okay.
But then anything else we can get in, but we don't generally keep in stock. A, because with us being on the first floor, we don't get a huge amount of passing trade because people don't necessarily know we're here. But B, space.
Yeah.
You know, most of our space is taken up with teaching rooms. As you can see, my office is also the storeroom. Yes. So I don't have room.
But if someone, say, wanted to learn how to play an instrument, they could come to you and say, all right, I really want to play the guitar. What would you recommend that I started with? And then you would be able to advise them.
We can advise them. We can get instruments in, or certainly for things like guitar, we do have some electric and acoustic guitars and bass guitars that we own that they can use for lessons. And then we do say, providing we've still got enough in, we'll say, oh, well, you can rent this off us for the first couple of months until you've decided it's for you. And then either we can look at getting an instrument in for you, or, you know, again, there's plenty of other music shops that are about that we can recommend to say, go there. It's important to try an instrument first. Yes. But equally, we do get some people who go, oh, I know what instrument I want. Not a worry then. If you know you definitely want it, we can get those in. There will always be some we can't, because particularly the big expensive brands often want you to go to them direct, and you have to spend thousands with us a year. Well, we can't do that. We're a small shop. But it's, you know, even things like we now have 3 or 4 different guitar string brands.
Right.
You know, because again, guitar strings are one of those that once you found the strings you like, you stick with that brand. So Ernie Ball is sort of our go-to because that's one of the most popular. And then we have a couple of other brands around that. And we now have people who don't have lessons with us, but we see them every couple of months when they come and buy their next pack of guitar strings.
So ultimately, if somebody wanted something music-based, be it an instrument, be it something like strings, or I was just thinking a reed for a clarinet.
Yeah, we do. We have clarinet, alto sax, and some tenor sax reeds in at the moment.
Do I sound like I know what I'm talking about a little bit?
Almost, yeah.
I keep all these memories of school and instruments keep coming back to me. And then they can come in and there's a very good chance you'll be able to help them in some way. So you'll either point them in the right direction.
Music, it'll either be in stock, or we can literally go, oh, yeah, it's here at the supplier. It'll be this much. It'll be here next week. We'll order it.
Yeah. So someone can email you, or they can bob in.
Yeah, they can email us. They can go on the website. I mean, we certainly have brass cleaning products by B Sharp is like our biggest seller online. Oh. Because there's not a huge amount of stockists of them in the country.
They're really important, though.
Very. There's been some really nasty cases of people getting lung diseases and things from not keeping their instruments clean. Yeah. It's made by a company in Crewe called Qualcomm. Oh. They devised it and sell it. And Foden's band, obviously the world famous band from Sandbach, endorse it. So yeah, we were like, we stock that, and that's probably our biggest seller online. But you know, again, we do have quite a lot of bits on there. We even sell gift items like mugs, and at Christmas we sold musical Christmas crackers. The whole business is just about spreading love of music. It's not about making money really in any way. So we charge the absolute bare minimum we can to cover our costs on the lessons. So the retail is then just about enabling us to, if an amp breaks, we can buy another one. So we will always, if possible, charge slightly less than the recommended retail price, because we just want to, you know, again, if somebody's like, I really need a music stand, as long as I've covered my cost getting it in, if that person's like, I literally only have a tenner to my name, if it's fine, you know, we will do whatever we can to help people. Yeah. You know, and that's the thing. It's just making people realize, you know, we're not some big corporation. We're just a bunch of people that really absolutely love music.
Yeah. So you are going to be promoting the business in the Go Local Sandbach. What is it that you want to particularly promote for? Is it just the business as a whole and everything that you offer?
Yes, to be honest. Okay. It is a short answer. Because retail would be amazing, because we do, you know, that's where we do actually make some money that enables us to move forwards. And, you know, since I've taken over, completely upgraded all the lighting in the place. It's now all LED, and which obviously is great for energy, but also means we can see much better. We've redecorated the whole place. Every room that we've brought a couple of new teaching rooms online, which means we can now teach more things in them, but then each one needs a digital piano. We've put soundproofing in them. So it's not just a case of getting a decorator in. Most of the money for that comes from retail and repairs.
Right.
So it's making people aware we're here for that. You don't have to have lessons with us for that. But also just, we are here for lessons. It'd be great. We only started opening on a Monday in September, and we've already filled most of that capacity. So we can now start to open an hour later on a Monday and grow it. We like to grow slowly and as the need is there.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I could talk to you forever. I really could. Thank you very much. I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've probably got a lesson to do. Yeah. Do you still teach?
I do every now and again.
Okay.
I try not to do... I don't have any regular students here. I'll cover if desperately needed. Most of my teaching is I still do teacher training for up and coming primary school teachers. I go and teach them how to teach music in the classrooms and things like that. But no, I don't do much one-to-one anymore.
Right.
I still like it. I just find...
You haven't got the time.
Yeah. All of the staff here know, my mantra is always, we're only as good as our worst teacher. So therefore, there isn't a worst teacher. They are all amazing. They're all brilliant. I would trust them all with my life, if I'm honest. I really, it's a great, great team that we've got. You can tell that although we are, I say there's 15 teachers altogether, but we're a small family. Monday this week, we went out to the Wheat Sheaf in Sandbach for a Christmas meal. Yeah. We all went out. We all had a good time. And it's, it's that thing of, well, yeah, we're a family. We'll go and have a meal together as a family. We all know each other and all that sort of thing. And it's just it's like going to somebody's living room for your lesson, but there are the added benefits of the shop and the repair. And, I've been learning piano. I really quite fancy having a quick go at the guitar. Oh, well, no worries, because there's a teacher for that here, so you could do that.
Thank you so much for spending all this time with me chatting about the business. And I really am looking forward to seeing you grow and develop over the next 12 months. And maybe we could meet again in 12 months and have a catch-up.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you to Daniel from Sandbach Music for taking the time to talk to us for the Arch Publications Business Insight podcast. If you're interested in featuring on our podcast, get in touch for more information. And also subscribe to our podcast on your favourite podcast platform.
The Arch Publications podcast.